Roll Tide, everybody, and welcome to Cover Crimson post-game show. Bama's up 52-7, 3:36 left to go. I'm not going to put up a final yet like I did last week on accident because something could happen. It could end up 52-14, and then what will we do? But what I will tell you is that we'll take some calls. We'll check in on Kalen DeBoer. I'm sure there's not a whole lot to talk about. Show's brought to you by mybookie.ag. He's Clint Lamb. I'm Mick Gillispie. Welcome to Cover Crimson. Let's get this thing started. Well, Clint, as this game winds down, Bama is dominant. I mean, this is 3 straight games where it feels like, okay, Alabama's figured something out.
This is how you want them to look, right? I mean, obviously, it hadn't all been perfect, but I will say when you start talking about where Alabama was about a month ago compared to how they've played over the last month, I do think that they're in really good shape as far as college football playoff, SEC championship potentially, and really once again, whether it's the offensive side of the football. Were they perfect on that side? No. But, I mean, Jalen Milroe did some really good things. I thought the run game did some really good things at times. And then defensively, the takeaways continue. And you really are starting to see guys play with more consistency on that side of the football and more as a unit as far as, like, the swarm defense. Guys are getting to the football. Guys are playing hard. You didn't see a whole lot of sacks, but you saw, quite a bit of pressure. It's just I feel like if you're an Alabama fan, 52-7, if that ends up holding up, I think that's kind of that's a strong performance for the Tide.
Well, I think the other thing people were excited about too was they wanted to see some of the backup quarterbacks. Milroe dominated the first half, running the ball again, threw the ball. Ryan Williams, he's so good, by the way, doing his thing. And then all of a sudden, Ty Simpson comes in, man. And I mean, there's people that are pretty excited about Ty Simpson. It's hard not to be. It was pretty fun watching him.
Yeah, he's a special talent. And everybody knows that. We're not saying anything, nothing new there. But seeing him get it done, whether it be, as a runner, they got him a carry. He took it for a 29-yard touchdown. So almost went 30 yards on explosive play there. You got explosive plays from him. As far as, the passing game, obviously the receiving yardage, 36 yards on 3 catches and a touchdown. That's nothing to write home about. But, all of his damage pretty much happened in the first quarter. So very hot start for him. I think Alabama at that point, you very much take control of the game. You don't want to reveal too much. You got a road game against Oklahoma. You got a rivalry game against Auburn in the Iron Bowl, and then potentially an SEC championship. And regardless of whether you make it there or not, you've got, a potential playoff berth as well. So, I like how they used him in this game. I think that's putting more on tape. But Mick, he's playing really good football right now.
So a win for Bama. Now all of a sudden, Bama's chances 67% to get to the SEC championship game is 71% to get to the college football playoff. Do you want to get to the SEC championship game? Because this is a debate now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't. Really, what's the downside? Because I think if they get there, they're in regardless. The committee has said they're not going to punish anybody for, losing a conference championship game. Now, granted, that I think that's more so in the case of the SEC, maybe the Big Ten. But if you end up being the one, what you don't want to do is have a bunch of teams that are all 10-2. You get tiebreakers. The one that ends up actually getting to go to the SEC championship, you put them in a position where if they lose, they ruin their chance at the college football playoffs. So, in my opinion, I see no issue with making it to the SEC championship because that will be an extra game that you have to play. But if you win that, you also got a chance to where it really doesn't matter. You can end up getting that first round bye and it kind of cancels out. So, I mean, I'm personally fine with it. You never want to be pulling for something not good to happen to your team. I understand where people's logic is on it, but me personally, I would say that it would benefit Alabama to play in that game, even though it wouldn't benefit them from a. It could as far as positioning, but I'm more so mean just being more battle tested, playing another quality opponent. I think doing that kind of thing can only help your football team.
Championships, and it's a championship if you win the SEC. And I mean, only the best teams win championships. And I don't know. I mean, I'm just not of this elk of, where it's, well, you know what? We're better off not making it. As long as there's something to win, you want to go out and win it, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the approach you want to take. So, I mean, I'm right there with you, man.
The other part of it too is that when you win a championship forever, those things go up in the rafters. Those are the things that when you win a championship, you're like, hey, you know what? We've won. I don't know. They keep track of all that stuff. How many championships has Alabama won SEC wise? Well, it's something that we talk about a lot, I mean, including last year. So, to get an opportunity to do that, I think would be good. Plus you get a week off after that, right? If you win.
Well, yeah, for sure. If you win, and a lot of people will say, well, what if you don't win? Now you've played another game. You're not going to get that first round bye, so it doesn't cancel out. But I think that, just think about the program. Kalen DeBoer, 10-2 is what you have to be to make it to the SEC championship. So if he goes 10-2 and he makes it there, then they've lived up to a lot of people's expectations preseason. But a lot of people, while they had them going 10-2, including myself, I didn't have them playing in the SEC championship. I had Texas and Georgia. So Kalen DeBoer in year one, despite the fact they got beat by Vanderbilt, despite the fact that things went really wrong right there in the middle of the season, and everybody, I wouldn't say was writing them off necessarily, but I mean, things were not looking great. To recover to a point where you can get to the SEC championship and have that opportunity in year one under Kalen DeBoer, especially with signing day, the early signing period being around that time, when you're able to say, hey, we're about to play for an SEC championship, and we'll be going to the college football playoffs regardless of what happens. I think at that point, that's a great selling point for that time of year.
All right, let's go to the phone lines, and we'll kind of get some calls as we go. Bama has not won this game yet, but they're up big right now. 52-7 at the 2-minute mark. So let's get to the phone lines and talk to you guys as Bama salts this win away. Who's this and where are you calling from?
How's it going, buddy?
Hey, say that again. I didn't have you potted up.
Hey, this is Stan from LA. How's it going, Mick?
Oh, what's up, Stan? What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm loving it, man. We did not pull a bandy this time.
No.
So they came out, they came out with some fire, came out with some execution. Nobody's hurt. Got to play everybody on the bench. Not a bad forte here. So it's a win-win for us on this one.
Were you looking forward to seeing Ty Simpson?
I was looking forward to seeing them all, and we did.
Yeah.
They went deep. So that's good. Ty had a great play with that where the guy came in and tried to sack him, and he just, he eluded and he chucked it deep. So that's good. I mean, that's a nice little spark play. He's got some fire in him. It's good to see the guys come off the bench with fire and wanting to, execute. And,
I'm with you, man.
This is what we needed.
This is the third straight game where I feel like we're taking a step forward.
Absolutely. And, the defense is, it held up well and nobody's hurt. That's the biggest thing. I was in these games, you don't want to get anybody hurt and you want to go deep and give those people the depth on the team, give them that taste of the game and give them that readiness that if something horrific were to happen, they're not coming in cold turkey. So this is a good win for us. I mean, like I said, the intensity was there and we showed up. We didn't pull a bandy. That was the biggest thing for me. So.
Yeah, look, Mercer's not as good as Vanderbilt, but you know what? I mean, I bet you if they played Vanderbilt, they could hang with them a little bit. they got blown out today by Alabama. I mean, they just Bama beat them up front. You know, something Coker and I talked about on the tailgate show yesterday. Coker was like, I always want to see him come out and just beat these guys up front. And I thought they did a great job of that. And they just seem, like you said, they seem focused on being able to take advantage of success, which has been my biggest criticism of these guys over the last 2 years.
I have one criticism, and that would probably be the right side of the line. At times, they got to, you know, they let some pressures come in quite a few times, and they shot the gaps on the right side and got us in the backfield a couple times, and Milroe took a couple shots there, but it's not perfect. But again, you got every player needs that O line. I don't know if it's just a competition; they weren't fired up for it, but that's the only thing I would have as a B, would the right side of the line not coalescing as well as it should.
I thought that too.
Other than that,
yeah, I thought that too, Stan. I mean, I'm watching Mercer kind of get in the backfield, and I'm like, what are we doing here?
Right. Oklahoma's better than Mercer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no doubt, man. Well, Bama wins
I'm
again.
looking forward to it.
8-2 record. And what are you going to watch the rest of the day?
Oh, I'll be on the road. I'm taking a road trip. So, but I guess I'll pull for Georgia. I think we need Georgia to upset Tennessee a little bit there. That would probably make things a little bit more chaotic for us, and that I think that would continue to level the field in the conference standings and such. So.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I hate Tennessee.
Yeah, right. They talk too much crap.
They do, and they got those puke orange outfits, just garbage truck people. Hey.
Well, any final thoughts before Clint and I chew on what you had to say?
I'm gonna go smoke my cigar now, and y'all, again, great. Y'all are the best there is to offer for Crimson Tide coverage, and love you guys. Talk to y'all soon.
Hey, thanks,
Roll
brother.
Tide.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much.
Stan from LA, man. Love you, brother, and love all you guys for being part of what we do. I mean, it means a lot to us. 52-7, the final, Clint. And just kind of going over some of the stats right now. Bama 14 points coming out in the first quarter. They did another 17 in the second half. Mercer scored on what was really an incredible play. They earned it. Bama with just 7 in the third and then 14 more in the fourth, but they end up with 52. And it's another dominant win. So Bama now 8-2, Mercer 9-2. Mercer's in the playoff for their division. And then Bama now goes to Oklahoma next week, and then they play the Iron Bowl. So you're talking about two really, really good helmet matchups to finish the season.
Yeah. It's so interesting because you watch Alabama's run game, and it was, pretty successful. I mean, you look at the yards per carry, Justice Haynes 6.2, Jam Miller 7.2. Jalen Milroe obviously had some really good runs mixed in there as well. Jam Miller only averaged 3 yards, so Jalen Milroe was 7.2. But he also, I thought, had some really good plays as well. But when you look at the opportunities, I understand that this is Mercer. They rotated a lot of guys in there, but I was kind of hoping that you could maybe get some of those explosives back and really aid kind of pat your stats. What's incredible is I think they are running the football more effectively, more consistently. Is it consistently enough? I still think there's some work that needs to be done, but at least you see those guys moving in the right direction. But what I will say about it is it feels like that the opportunities, for whatever reason, as far as those explosive runs from the running backs that we saw early in the year, I mean, they were making a living off of that. And in some ways, it's better that they're more so finding consistent success. But at the same time, you would like to see those explosives mixed in, because if they can get that back, this is going to be a really dangerous. I mean, it already is a really dangerous offense. But, they're getting Ryan Williams going a little bit more. Jalen Milroe, I will say, I know people are probably going to run with this, and I hope that they don't, because we just need to wait and see. But it did seem like I was just watching the end of the game, and Jalen Milroe was walking around, and it looked like I mean, it looked like he was hobbling just a little bit, just a little bit. And you can go back and watch. I just was sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I don't know if something got tweaked or just with the way that we saw him playing there for a while. The fact there was so much speculation with an injury, and we have beat this to death. Some people are tired of talking about the injuries because I will say anybody that we've talked to behind the scenes has not even remotely said that there was anything injury related, but it felt like he was lacking some burst there for a while.
Yep.
I hope he's healthy. It seems like Alabama got out of this game pretty unscathed on that front, but I really do feel like that with the way Alabama's playing right now and the way things are coming together, there's only so much that you can take away from this type of game. But I feel like right now they're playing some of their best football of the year. You would still like to see a little bit more consistency, as far as the vertical passing game. There were still some miscues there. There were still some miscues as far as, guys dropping footballs. But I think overall the offense is coming together. I think they got good game plans for the styles of defense that they're playing. I think the defense side of the football is still taking the ball away, giving the offense more possessions. And you got guys, like I said, I mean, Jahad Campbell has been one of the most impressive players I have seen in quite some time on defense for Alabama.
So good, man.
So good. I mean, he is a bona fide first-round talent. There's no doubt in my mind. In fact, I mean, you know what? I'll go ahead and do it. I mean, he is very Micah Parsons-esque. It's not just the number. It's not just the size. It's the versatility. Yep. It's the athleticism. And, Micah Parsons had some character issues that made him fall a little bit to the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, we've seen what he's done since he's got in the NFL. Jahad Campbell, from everything that we know, outstanding kid. And so he won't have those issues. I wonder just how high he could potentially go. You need to enjoy watching number 11, though, for the rest of this year, because I highly doubt he's going to be back in 2025.
I thought the officiating at some points in this game was typical of bad officiating. I mean,
I love how you said typical, because it is now typical. This is the norm.
Yeah, like they stink every week, but didn't really affect the game. I mean, but just some of those calls, you're just going, you got to be kidding me. But Campbell, wow, man, like it seemed like he could close on those guys so fast. Like they would think they're gonna turn the corner and make a big play, and then Campbell would be like shot out of a gun and just absolutely ball those guys over. Like he's so fast and tough and physical. Thought that he played a great game too. And that was pretty exciting. AK says he's the best player in college football. Look, man, he's coming into his own, man. Coming into his own.
I will say, I mean, in default, so we're all tired of talking about Jalen's injury. I understand that. I really do. I'm just telling you what I see. I have no idea. I know what I saw on the field. For whatever reason, he was in a funk there for a while. It did feel like that, and I was talking about this with Jim, a couple of, I guess, what was it, yesterday, maybe day before yesterday. And it just, it felt like there for a while, he knew he was limited in some ways, and it was hindering him. It also felt like it was hindering Nick Sheridan as far as the plays calls, what he had to do. And what you've seen the last few weeks is that him start to come out of that. Like, it seems like Nick Sheridan's a lot more comfortable. It seems like Jalen Milroe is a lot more explosive when he's getting his opportunities. So, I mean, I hope that he continues to stay healthy, because when he is healthy and, when he's got things, when he's confident, Nick Sheridan's got things figured out, everybody's dialed in on that side of the football. This is such a dynamic offense, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And now, I mean, Mick, how impressed have you been with Alabama's defense?
Yeah,
really, since I mean, really, I guess it's gone on for quite a while. I mean, when's the last time where you really the Vanderbilt game? I mean, there were some flashes where it's like, okay, I don't like that. As far as against South Carolina, into the game, you give them a chance to tie it up, or do the whole onside kick thing and all that. But at the same time, I feel like really, since the Vanderbilt's the only time this year where and maybe second half of Georgia, where it's like you just weren't confident they were going to get a stop. But outside of that, they've played really good football this year.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, it's it's almost like they were really close against Tennessee, like Womack said, and then now they're there. They didn't have Robinson today, but they still made do without him. They were fine without him. I don't know how that's going to affect them the final 2 games. What did you think about that?
Say that again.
Without Q Robinson today.
I thought Quay Russaw played a really good game. I mean, that's another guy and we actually know for a fact he was dealing with a lower body injury, and he's starting to look like his old self. Like I thought at the beginning of the year, the number one thing that you notice with him, and really it's him and Jan Pierre, is their ability to close on the football, eliminate space. And you saw that from Quay Russaw today. Him playing that off-ball role. A lot of us thought, he could end up transitioning and playing off-ball linebacker, but he had done a lot of on-ball stuff in high school. He seemed as comfortable. And now, granted, I'll have to go back and confirm this, and I also understand who the opponent is, and that matters. But just watching him in this game, he looked comfortable playing in space as an off-ball guy. Actually was making some pretty good, inside linebacker type of plays where he was coming up on those underneath routes when the opportunities presented themselves. And I think that with the way he's playing and the way that Jan Pierre, just the tools that he brings to the table, I was really impressed. I would like to see him finish a little bit more. There was at least one play that stands out where he could have finished, and it ended up being a pretty successful gain for Mercer. But his ability to pursue backside, his first step explosion, all the things, man, he's got all the tools that you look for growing as far as being a 3-down guy. I think between those two players, hopefully Keanu Kook can get back. We don't really know what's going on with him, but we know he was not available for the last game due to a suspension. He wasn't available for this one. But from a depth standpoint, you're really starting to get thin there, where you might have to start having to turn to some freshmen if something happens to one of the 2 guys remaining, or you might start seeing more Jordan Renaud or maybe, Keon Keeley or something like that, which they don't want to do because those are bandits. But, we'll kind of – or more Jihad Campbell, which we're seeing plenty of Jihad, and Justin Jefferson plays into that as well. You just want to be able to continue to move Jihad around as a depth or as a versatile piece, because when you can do that, you can create mismatches for him, and it's a really big plus for your defense.
Guys, thanks for hanging out with us on Cover Crimson for the post-game show. 52-7, the final. Alabama now 8-2, and they head to Oklahoma next week. So now it gets real. Now it's all the easy cupcakes, the bye weeks, all that stuff's over, and now it's time to dig in, because you got this one, you got the next one. You win that, there's a good chance you're going to be in Atlanta. And those are 3 really big games. You don't want to lose any of those games, but you definitely don't want to lose this week. And for Bama, they've got to go week to week. But our show's brought to you by MyBookie. Use the promo code next round, like my shirt, to double your initial deposit. That's mybookie.ag, and they take care of this channel. It's how we're here doing this. So, if you feel like I did when you looked at some of the spreads, oh my goodness. Look at that. Clemson comes from behind at the end. Did you see that?
No,
they almost lost the pit, and they scored with like a minute left. I thought that when I was looking at the lines on the All-American report, Mike and I always go through the SEC lines on the second show of the week. And I thought that line for Texas at Arkansas was too big. I thought Arkansas was going to give them a fit. They did. They only lost by 10, and they were in the game.
They blew so many opportunities, man.
Yeah, they did.
Watching that game, it's like, okay, you're already, the talent gap is pretty substantial. You can't be doing some of the things that Arkansas was doing early to put themselves in that position. If they don't do that, they very well could have won that football game. So they did fight. They did keep it close, but really, in my opinion, I thought there was some self-inflicted stuff that really helped Texas out and helped them get this win.
Yeah. So mybookie.ag. Like and subscribe here to the Cover Crimson channel. Hit the bell so you know when we're live. Give us a thumbs up with a Roll Tide, guys, and thanks for being here. All right, let's take a look at some of the team stats, Clint. Bama ran over these guys, 29 first downs in the game. That's a lot. They were 8 of 15 on third downs, and they kept Mercer to 1 of 9. Excellent stats, both sides of the third down. Bama was 3 for 3 on fourth. That's great. 508 yards total for the Tide, only 202 for Mercer. Passing, Bama went 319. Mercer went 140. Bama ran again. And that's something that we're starting to see from this team, running each week. 189 on the ground and just 62 yards rushing for Mercer. Penalties, 6 of 60 for Alabama, 5 of 32 for Mercer. And they turned the ball over 3 times. And I'll tell you, just kind of sticking with the defensive thing, watching Xavier Brown take that to the house was one of the highlights of the game to me.
A lot of number 2 scoring touchdowns today.
Yeah.
Ryan Williams got himself a couple, a rushing touchdown, a receiving touchdown, and his boy Xavier Brown on the other side of the football getting a non-offensive touchdown. Alabama's first of this season, and a lot of people had been praising Alabama for all the turnovers, but fans were hoping, some of these could start turning into some touchdowns. And, against Mercer, it's like, I mean, you'd rather it probably happen against Oklahoma or Auburn or whoever else is left on the schedule, but you'll take it. You got to get it going, somewhere, but you're 100% right. Just their ability to force turnovers, to make quarterbacks uncomfortable, giving different, pre-snap reads, post-snap reads, showing different pictures. It's like they're not dominant with their pass rush, but they do enough to affect the quarterback. And it's such a collective way of playing defense where there's no necessarily individual heroes necessarily, even though I think both off-ball linebackers are playing really, really good football right now. But this defense is designed to help them out. It's designed for the safeties and the off-ball linebackers. And you see that, like, Bray Hubbard gets inserted into the starting lineup for Keon Sabb, and he immediately becomes an impact player, and he's making a lot of plays and doing what he needs to do. And that's a lot of that's Bray Hubbard, but some of that is also Kane Womack's scheme and just what it allows safeties to do. It's one of the big reasons why I'll never understand what Caleb Downs was thinking leaving. I mean, he could have been this system. He could have been absolutely incredible. But the off-ball linebackers are making plays in different facets. I mean, Deontay Lawson will get after the quarterback as well, but they're just playing such team defense right now where they understand their assignments, and it seems like, at least on a surface level, that they understand how everything's supposed to work together collectively. And when you've got guys playing like that, they do a really good job of setting each other up to make plays, and that's been, in my opinion, absolutely huge. I'm hoping it continues.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, and I think that it's really exciting to kind of see how these guys are forcing turnovers. And AK's like, man, I haven't seen this many since 2016. I don't know what the stats are, but this team is starting to become one of the greats when it comes to turnovers. I mean, it's every game now.
We've never, if they maintain their current pace, it was already to a point before they had the 3 turnovers today, which is only going to help because they were averaging, I want to say, like 2.2 per game, 2.3, something like that. So that's only going to go up from here. But entering this game, we've never seen a Nick Saban defense average, 2.2 or higher on turnovers per game. So, I'm not saying that this defense is better than anything Nick Saban ever put on the field. I'm not doing that. Obviously, that's not the case. We've seen some really, really good defenses. But as far as specifically creating or generating turnovers, this defense is doing a phenomenal job of that at a rate that we really have never seen before, or at least since I've been keeping up with this sport. Really since 2004. So for 20 years, I've never seen a defense consistently be able to do this week in and week out. They just got to keep it up, because if you're going on the road and you're playing Oklahoma, their offense will give you the football as well. And you playing in their house, one way to take their crowd out of it really quick is generating turnovers and, capitalizing on offense when you do.
How do you think they turned the corner? I mean, how did this happen after, what the struggles they had against Vandy?
I think that this was always coming. I think it's like we talked about it. This was a big transition, just as far as coaching staff, as far as personnel, transfer portal guys, freshmen who are playing, guys who had never seen like a lot of reps, guys moving into much bigger roles like a Jamarian Latham. So just between everything that happened and what went on in the off season, there was always going to be a transition period. So I think a lot of it's just guys getting more comfortable with scheme, with coaches, with expectations, day in, day out type of stuff. And then I think when their backs were against the wall, you would have hoped to have seen them respond after the Vanderbilt game playing really good football. You didn't. They continue to play pretty poorly against South Carolina. Obviously, they lost against Tennessee. But one thing about it is they figured out ways to win some of those games, and they've continued to take this one step at a time approach where it's like, we're not going to panic. And I think that everybody wants to see Kalen DeBoer super fired up, and we've seen more of that, and that's actually been really beneficial. But I think his calming approach has also been beneficial because there's been zero panic from him. He seemed concerned about getting things fixed, but he's never given off this vibe like he's worried that they're not going to be able to get some of these things fixed. And I think that gave his players, and probably maybe even the coaching staff, I'm sure they also contributed to it, but just everybody, confidence in, how they would be able to turn this thing around. And they certainly have.
Great point, man. I mean, any other year, 2 losses, you're out, right? Especially the way that things are this year. But there's no need to panic because you still got a lot of football. But I just kept waiting to see the team improve. That was the criticism that I had, and you guys can tell me what you think in the comments section. You can call the phone line. I just didn't see a lot of improvement. It was like every week was like, okay, doom, 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 doom. Well, now I'm seeing the improvement. Since the Tennessee loss, and really I feel like a lot of it was players like Tyler Booker that decided that they weren't going to take it anymore, that they weren't going to be that team. Not to say you're going to win every game, and I'm not even saying that I think that they have to win every game. I do think, though, that if you're going to be successful, you have to be consistent, and it just didn't feel like there was a lot of consistency until Booker and those guys stepped up and were like, hey, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. We're going after it. You either want to be here to be successful or don't show up. And that's kind of what the attitude was from camp this week too, or from practice. Hey, we're here to get things done, and we want other people on the team that feel the same way.
Well, I don't remember what game it was. I'd have to go back and check. But leading up to a game, Jamarcus Shepard was talking about Tyler Booker specifically and just how he was pretty much on everybody's ass. And it wasn't asking anymore. It was telling. You're going to start doing this stuff right, or you need to go somewhere else. And everybody at that point, they were sick of hearing about it. They wanted to see some action, or they wanted to see that translate to Saturdays, because there had been a lot of talk and not a whole lot of backing up. But it did feel like that something clicked, and I'm sure Tyler Booker was a major part of that. I guarantee you he wasn't the only one. But really, since that point, it's felt like that going from wanting or asking to demanding has been really effective with some of these younger guys. When you're young like that, for the most part, I mean, you want to be led. You were a leader of your high school team, but this is all new territory. You're still trying to figure things out. Things are tough, and you want to follow somebody. And so, but you got to respect the guy who's trying to lead you. And I think Alabama's their leaders have done a much better job of that. Not that they weren't doing a good job before, but just where it stopped at being an ask and started being a demand. And I think that's made a huge difference.
Yeah, no doubt. So now what? You got Oklahoma and Auburn coming up. When are we going to find out the game time for the Iron Bowl?
That'll be early this next week.
Okay,
we'll go ahead and know that. And that'll be really, it's not going to be the 11 a.m. kick, I'll tell you that. But Mick, which one? They're obviously both still massive tests. Like, people are going to look at the records and say, Alabama's got a cakewalk here. But we know Auburn's going to try everything they can. You can write your season, and it's been a rough season for Auburn, but you can really get some things right if you can upset Alabama, spoil their playoff chances. The whole talk about the future and, man, this is just a sign of things to come. Like, that whole talk is really going to ramp up if they're able to win. So don't underestimate Auburn. I don't care if it's in Bryant-Denny Stadium, and don't underestimate Oklahoma. I guarantee you this next weekend, Alabama's going to face some adversity with that crowd. And what Oklahoma has defensively. They've had some really rough moments, but Alabama's still Alabama. They're still going to get everybody's best shot. And if they need to show that in that type of situation, they did a great job of it at LSU in Baton Rouge. They need to continue to do that. As far as you're going to face some adversity, Oklahoma's going to come ready to play. You got to kind of weather that storm and play good football. But as far as Oklahoma and Auburn, which one would you say you're more concerned about right now?
Well, I'd probably say Oklahoma just because it's on the road. 6:30 in Norman. I think Oklahoma and Auburn are about equal as far as talent. Oklahoma beat Auburn there, but Auburn gave the game away. I know Auburn's going to try to fight Alabama, but the Tide hasn't really struggled against Auburn at home. It's been the road games where we've really, ran into the difficulties. The Iron Bowl is exciting. It's fun. I just don't think that this team's going to go into that game and lose. So winning on the road has been tough in the SEC. It's a place that I don't remember the last time Alabama played. Well, I guess I do. It would have been when Shula was coaching, and we played Oklahoma on a home and home and lost both of them. They had Stoops back then. This isn't a great Oklahoma team, but they got players. So I guess if you were, it's pretty close to me, but I'd say that I like our chances at home against anybody. I mean, really anybody. I think anybody in the country we could beat in Tuscaloosa, but going on the road can be tough sometimes. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I feel like it's such a toss-up. I could see arguments for both. I agree with you as far as the road aspect of it. Night game, that and then they're a good defense. So you're not only you're going to be going against that crowd, but you also got a good enough Oklahoma defense with a defensive-minded head coach where I'm sure they're going to have some things dialed up, and you just got to hope that Alabama's ready to do the same thing they did against LSU, because LSU in a lot of ways had a really good defense as well, and Nick Sheridan and Kalen DeBoer and really the entire offensive staff, their game plan, and then guys being able to execute it, that combination just it completely eliminated the advantages that LSU had as far as their defense against Alabama's offense. I mean, when you only throw the football 18 times going against those LSU pass rushers, that's going to limit their opportunities to make or have an impact on the game. So hopefully they'll have not a similar game plan. It won't be the same thing, but as far as identifying how they can attack Oklahoma, I think that they're in a really good position where they can go to Norman and get a win, but you got to come prepared, man.
I thought Alabama took a step forward today with the way that the guys like the Ty Simpsons and the Dylan Laudergans and the Austin Macks played, getting that opportunity. But I loved watching the sideline be in the game like they were. Those guys excited and cheering each other on. And the Robbie Oots touchdown was great. It was like a game where we really got a chance to see some other players that might not have been featured a lot, and maybe a glimpse of the future. And I know there's a big debate going on about who the next Alabama quarterback is. And honestly, I thought all three guys looked pretty good.
They did. Yeah. I still say it's going to be Ty Simpson. Now, granted, the other guys look good. If Jalen ends up leaving, then it will be a competition. I don't think Ty Simpson will be handed anything, but I just feel like with where he's at, I understand in a lot of these games, maybe he hadn't looked as impressive as some people would want him to. I would remind people of Bryce Young back when he was a freshman. I understand it's completely different because Ty Simpson's now has been in the system. This is his third year. So it's not the same thing. It's more so understandable from Bryce Young. But when you come in at the end of games and a lot of the goal is to shorten the game, it's run the football. They still allowed him to throw. I mean, he threw 10 times, and they ended up working both the other quarterbacks in as well. So he wasn't in there for a ton of snaps. So he got plenty of opportunities. But when you come in at the end of games like that, Bryce Young would show flashes of brilliance. But if you remember, everybody didn't like as a whole what they saw from him when he was a freshman, when he came in, which is why a lot of people were predicting Paul Tyson to win the starting quarterback job. But when you see the flashes, you understand where he sits on the depth chart. You understand that he's waited his turn. I think it's a similar situation where other guys will get opportunities, and if they step up and take it from Ty, then that's only going to help Alabama. but kind of that play that he made as far as breaking that tackle and chunking it downfield, the fact that he can extend plays, he's a mobile quarterback. I think he's got a lot of tools that this coaching staff really likes, and I think he fits the system extremely well. I would not write Ty Simpson off. He's going to end up being a really good player.
Well, the other thing, though, is Dylan Lonergan. I mean, every time he gets in, he's so accurate with the football.
Great arm. I mean, Austin Mack, man, all of the quarterbacks, in my opinion, every one of them made plays today.
Yeah.
I will say, as far as performance, I think Ty Simpson had one of the best plays of the day, but from an entire body of work, even though I think he had some really good moments, he probably did look the worst out of any of them, right? I mean, wouldn't you agree? Because I thought Lonergan had a great command of the offense, plays with confidence, great ball placement. Austin Mack, as far as the touchdown pass, kind of shows you, what he could be in this system. And obviously, Kalen DeBoer wanted him for a reason. I don't think we should ignore that. But it's a good crop of quarterbacks. We've said that from the beginning of the year. But even though I don't think Ty played the best out of the group today, I still think he's a heck of a player. And I think this coaching staff really, really likes what they've seen from him behind the scenes.
Hard not to. Let's go to the phone lines and jump on your calls as we hang out with you after Alabama's 52-7 win. Who's this and where you calling from?
What's up, Mick? It's Heath from Huntsville.
Hey, what's up, Heath? Roll Tide, brother.
Roll Tide, man. Hey, I don't know. I've been at a party, so I don't know what everybody said or anything like that. But I do want to say that it was very refreshing seeing like the new talent, like for years to come at Alabama, get out on the field and do some good stuff. I love watching the celebration with wide receivers. I think it was Scott.
Oh, yeah, Rico
I think
Scott.
that's his name. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he scored that touchdown off of Lonergan in the corner of the end zone, man, that was amazing. Like, just the camaraderie. I mean, that's all we ask for, man. Just like be a team, play as a team, love each other as a team, just do team stuff. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's why these games are still fun to play.
Now I watched every second. I was at a stupid bar. They had some other team like their no sound, just watching the game. So it's kind of interesting. But anyway, I won't keep you long, and I just want to let you know, Roll Tide, and I'm gonna keep on calling every damn weekend. And I got a abbreviated Rammer Jammer with a little twist on the end, just for Mercer.
Well, do it.
Hey, Mercer. Bye-bye, Mercer. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, Heath. Thanks for calling in, brother.
Love you, brother.
Yeah, love you, man. Thank you. Great dude there. Great dude there. Came and saw us at the Floribama. We had some guys come and see us. One guy was from Maryland, from Annapolis, came and saw us yesterday at Innisfree. We love it when you guys come, man. It means a lot to us. So Roll Tide, everybody, and thank you, Heath, and all of you guys for calling in.
One other thing I'll say about the quarterbacks, there's another Eli Holstein sitting on this roster right now. I don't know which one it is. It would be awesome if they all stuck around next year. Is that going to happen in the transfer portal era? Crazier things have happened, but I think everybody would be kind of shocked. But fans need to understand that all four of these guys are really, really good. Yeah. And you also got Keelan Russell coming in as well. And that is, I mean, as far as ceilings go, I mean, he's up there probably higher than anybody, really. But just understand, because you do have so many options at quarterback, like no Alabama fan, based off of what happened last year, everybody understood that Eli Holstein was, there was a lot of raw ability there, very athletic guy, strong arm, had all the tools. But based off of where he was in the pecking order, Dylan Lonergan was the one generating the buzz last offseason when they were freshmen. I don't think anybody thought Eli Holstein was going to transfer and do this immediately. What I'm saying is don't be shocked if there's another one of these types of guys on this roster right now that transfers out and ends up becoming an instant impact player somewhere else. You can only start one quarterback, and it could literally be any of them. I'm not going to make any predictions, but I mean, just the bottom line is this quarterback room is so deep, and it is so much better than I think even a lot of people realize. The fans understand it, but the national media and a lot of others, I don't think fully understand it.
Well, I'm not. Look, I assume that Simpson will be the next quarterback, but I'm not guaranteeing that he'll be the next quarterback. You have competitions. Lonergan's been really good at spinning the football. Mac's really good. Simpson's good too. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And the other dynamic is Milroe. I mean, he could come back if he
That's a great point.
wanted to. And so we kind of touched on that a little bit. We assume he's not coming back. He says he's not coming back, but we'll see what happens. It's just it's a good problem to have. There's been years where Alabama didn't have much quarterback depth, and so that hasn't been an issue lately. And you look at the NFL, and there's a lot of guys that are former Bama QBs that are, obviously there and playing pretty good football. And then I love seeing Tua back. And I just hope he stays healthy. But, kind of going back over the stats again, and I'll throw those back up here again. 9 yards per play, right? I mean, I guess against these guys, it's not like you're sit there and I mean, it's kind of what you expected, right? If you didn't have these, lopsided stats, there'd be a lot of concern. Running the ball for Alabama. I'm going to put this back up here for you, Clint. That's why I'm doing this. It was Milroe leading the way again, 6 carries, 43 yards and a touchdown. Justice Haynes, 6 carries, 37 yards. Ryan Williams, remember he had the run for a touchdown. He was so fast, man, and he just slides by people. They just can't touch him. Richard Young got in the game, 7 carries, 26 yards. Jam Miller, 8 carries, 24 yards, had a touchdown. They took it off the board. But a lot of different guys got to run the ball today. And then, we kind of mentioned it. A lot of different guys got to catch the ball today. I mean, look at this list of receivers. Bernard with 4, Cuevas with 2, Oots had a touchdown, 1 catch. Rico Scott had a touchdown, 2 grabs. Ryan Williams had 3 catches and another TD. Caleb Odom caught 2, and he almost made an amazing catch. Dupree and Miller and Kevin Riley and Kobe Prentice and Bubba Hampton. How about that? Bubba Hampton got in there. Ty Lockwood and
Jay Lindsey.
How about that, man? That's a group.
Yeah, that and we should probably talk about Caleb Odom because he started today alongside Jeremy Bernard and Ron Williams. And Alabama had been starting off a lot of these games recently in 12 personnel. So 1 running back, 2 tight ends with Robbie Oots getting the start alongside CJ Dupree. And in this game, you saw Caleb Odom. What we've seen is this coaching staff is willing to allow guys to not only get significant playing time, but the interesting part to me was the fact that he started the game. It's not just great week of practice. He was put in, got to see a little bit more playing time than he had been seeing. Maybe they get him a few more targets, whatever. But no, he was out there for the first snap. I don't know what caused that. But granted, it's a transfer portal era. He's a heck of a talent. I guarantee you Alabama has big plans for him next year, but you've got to get his feet wet this year. You've got to keep these guys happy. So maybe that had something to do with it. I have no idea. I don't want to speculate too much on it, but it is what we can talk about and maybe speculate on a little bit. It's just, is this going to continue? And I think that it is. He has some really big playability. He's got a skill set that is so different than anybody else on the roster because the tight ends have the size advantage. A lot of these receivers have the athletic advantage. But as far as the height, weight, speed combination and just what Caleb Odom can do down the stretch, you might see some things specifically designed for him. I wouldn't be surprised if he made some situational plays that really made a huge difference for Alabama. I'm not going to say it's 2017 rideouts. Henry Ruggs making big catches, Devontae Smith with a walk-off game-winning touchdown. I'm not saying it's going to be anything like that, but what I will say is that I think that there are going to be some moments where you are going to see him make some plays, and it's going to end up mattering in some of these football games. So I thought it could have just been also that it was Mercer, and you could have that or do that or whatever. But I think that that's something to keep an eye on for sure.
So now you kind of get through this one, and all of a sudden now you're preparing for Oklahoma and then obviously the Iron Bowl. So 2 really big games left, but also scoreboard watching, because Bama, to get to the SEC championship game, does not control its own destiny. And that starts tonight when Alabama and all of us will watch the Georgia-Tennessee game. What does Alabama need to get into the playoff? What do they need to get back to Atlanta?
Oh man, I'm one of those where it's got to be like written in front of me on a lot of that type of stuff. What I will say is Tennessee's got to lose. I don't think Texas is. I mean, they could end up getting beat by A&M, but I'm pretty sure A&M or Texas is going to be in the SEC championship more than likely. So this determining opponent, and Tennessee getting beat would create that situation where you've got however many team tie, and that will create a lot of opportunities. So for if you're an Alabama fan, probably I guess need to be pulling for Georgia, but I also think that if Tennessee beat Georgia, some fans don't even want to go to the SEC championship, so they'll probably be happy. But also Georgia getting a third loss, if that takes them out of the college football playoff, and that's 2 years in a row. And I mean,
ooh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking. Imagine the scenario, because everybody was assuming, like, especially with Nick Saban, where it's like, okay, once you go to 12 teams, guys, just know Alabama's going to be in it 100% of the time, because they were almost in it 100% of the time, and it was a 4-team playoff.
Right.
But so even though there was starting to be a little bit of a fall off, there's no way, Alabama was going to be outside the top 12. It was the same thing for Georgia and Kirby Smart with where he had that program at. And so not only do you move from 4 teams to 12 teams, but imagine if they end up missing the playoffs altogether after you should have had a much bigger cushion there. The narrative that we all had as far as the Alabama Nick Saban dynasty, they dropped one game and everybody's saying it's over. It's run its ship. You haven't really seen people doing that with Kirby Smart in Georgia. I find that extremely fascinating. If they end up dropping another game, you'll still have people kind of making the argument based off of strength of schedule and all that. They still deserve to be in the conversation. They still deserve to go. But just, I don't think either scenario really tonight is bad for Alabama. I think there's silver linings on both. But if you're wanting to make it to the SEC championship, you need Georgia to win this football game.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was at too. And then, you'll have the Texas A&M game. That'll be probably an eliminator. I don't even know how all the tiebreakers work, but what
I don't think anybody does. It's a secret. I mean, they gave them to us. No one understands it. If I got it in front of me, I'm sure I probably could. But I mean, at one point they just say, you know what? It's just going to be I don't know if it was a coin toss or it was something. I think it was defined as a random draw. Is how they put it. And it's like, I mean, okay. As soon as you saw that as like the 8th tiebreaker, you're like, I'm pretty sure in year one, just how the world or it seems to work, we're going to end up seeing that be the problem, and everybody, dog cussing each other about it. But I will say it's going to be a fascinating last couple of weeks, because a lot of these teams, someone along the way, I wouldn't be shocked at all if they end up blowing it and they lose to a team they're not supposed to. And now we're talking about X amount of teams being involved here, and really one, maybe even 2 ends up dropping out and they're not a part of that conversation. Maybe that clears things up. But it's going to be a fascinating last couple of weeks.
So I'm just going to throw this up while we're talking, and then you and I will give out our game balls here. But on one side, you got Alabama's schedule, right? So you see all the wins, 3 straight since the Tennessee loss, dominating over Missouri, LSU, and Mercer, teams that you figure you should beat if you're Alabama, but they were ranked. Not Mercer, but Mercer's the winner of the Southern Conference. I mean, they're still, for their league, they're pretty good. And then now you got Oklahoma and Auburn. On the other side is the standings. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about, because it's just crazy to think about this right here. But the teams at the top, okay, Texas won today. Tennessee's playing Georgia. So either both of these teams are going to have 2 losses, which moves all these teams up, right? Or like you said, Tennessee's going to put itself in position to go to the SEC championship game. And I think Georgia's out at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I
agree with you.
What's crazy is that you look at that list right there, and you got to think more than likely, Georgia. I do think Georgia's going to beat Tennessee. Maybe I end up being wrong, but if that ends up happening, Tennessee's now got 2 losses. I've seen a lot of people now talking about, who, if you'd have told me going into the season that this number of teams would be in like a 10-2 conversation in the SEC, I would have told you you're out of your mind. Go back and look, and I wasn't the only one. There was a lot of people that were talking about this, but before the season, typical offseason questions get asked, how many SEC teams are making it into the college football playoff. I said at the time, I feel like it's 4 bare minimum with a very strong possibility of 5. I wouldn't be shocked at all if you've got 6+ teams, 6 or more teams in the SEC at the end of the year who are 10-2, because it really did feel like that this was a very strong year for the SEC as far as, you look at like Missouri and what we were expecting them to be, with I almost called him Drew Lock, Brady Cook coming back, Luther Burden, Mookie Cooper, all those guys on offense, lost Cody Schrader, lost a lot defensively, but you felt like they were still going to be a very good team in the SEC, obviously because of injuries and things like that. And the fact they were just disappointed in a lot of ways. They have not been as good, but they're still sitting at 7-2 right now, probably going to lose South Carolina and drop 7-3. But, it was like even teams like that, some people were predicting that they were going to finish 2nd or 3rd. I'd never thought that. I thought they would be one of those lower. I still thought 10-2 is very possible with that schedule. Right. But, when you start looking at the entire group, it was like, I can see a lot of 10-2 teams in the SEC. And, that's kind of how it's starting to play out. I'm not, Mick, I'll ask, are you shocked by this? Because I'm not shocked by it at all. I thought this was exactly kind of how this was going to play out. It was going to make for a lot of fireworks right here at the end of the year.
If Alabama beats Vanderbilt, which obviously didn't happen, but it would have probably been exactly what I expected. Maybe a loss along the way, Bama and Texas being at the top.
You did predict Bama and Texas in the SEC championship, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, I had Georgia and Texas. So, I was wrong on that. But, I forgot you did have Bama. And there's a lot of people that probably are upset with me about that. I really do try to be, it's what I thought was going to happen. Based off of what's currently happening, obviously, that could still end up being the case. It also is very, very, very possible that it's not the case. And once again, you've got to give Alabama a lot of credit for being in this position right now, because I felt confident in 10-2. I wasn't over. I mean, I knew they would be in the conversation based off how things played out, but I did not project them to go to the SEC championship. And Kalen DeBoer in year 1 in a transfer portal era, by the way, a lot of guys going out, early entrants, seniors, transfer portal, all that stuff. For everybody saying that Kalen DeBoer is doing it with Nick Saban's players, there are a lot of Nick Saban's players still around, but I think a lot more than your typical roster that you take over left via the transfer portal. And that caused, this is more Kalen DeBoer's squad than your typical first-year head coach.
All right, Kevin says Bama wins out, Vols lose tonight, and Texas and A&M beats Texas. Bama's in Atlanta. Okay, and that could happen.
That's what
And so Texas A&M to me is a really tough team too, although they lost to South Carolina. But South Carolina is a good team. So it's so crazy to think about this too. As much as maybe some of our fans don't want to go to Atlanta, think about Ole Miss and Tennessee. They would both love to be there. Like their fan bases would love the opportunity to win an SEC championship. And I don't think we should ever discount what it means to be the champions of the conference, because we have been spoiled at Alabama with SEC championships. Most schools don't get them like that.
What's funny is Alabama has gone to the SEC championship in recent years multiple times. They've won. They've got that ring. They've got that check mark or that accomplishment. And then they've ended up not being able to secure a national championship in those years. In the early Saban days, that didn't happen. They go to the SEC championship. I mean, they're winning natties for the most part.
Mhm.
And so, I think a lot of fans right now, they're like, hey, let's not risk doing that again. Let's just make it to the big dance, and see how things play out from there. But I'm with you, man. I'd be totally fine if Alabama makes the SEC championship. It would make for a great game, great conversation. And if I felt like Alabama's chances of getting into the college football playoff were very threatened by making it, I'd be singing a different tune. I really would. And that probably wouldn't be a good look on my part, because you never want to approach it like you're trying to not have an accomplishment like that. But I mean, if what the committee says is true, and they're really not going to punish people for participating in championship weekend, I think the goal is not everybody focuses on the losses, but I think more importantly, it's the wins. If Georgia has 3 losses, but they can't get to 10 wins, I don't think they're in. If Alabama makes it to the SEC championship and they get to 10 wins before they even step on the field, if they're 10-3, I think that's still good enough to get in. So I think it's a different scenario.
Before we do our players of the game, give out our game balls, I'm going to go through a couple questions that you guys have. This one's a great question for you, because I'm curious myself. I mean, it's going to be hard to get Bray Hubbard off the field right now.
You won't have to. Yeah, I mean, it'll be it'll in my opinion, it'll be Bray Hubbard and Keon Sabb, because Malachi Moore, he can't come back, and so you're losing one guy there. But now,
but I mean, this year, like if he comes back from his injury, right, or is he done?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, no, that okay, and that is an interesting question. I don't know why my mind immediately jumped to 2025 on that, because let's talk about the more immediate. But yeah, I mean, Bray Hubbard's playing really good. Keon Sabb was doing some really good things though, and he's such a. I think you rotate guys. I mean, you've done it everywhere else. I don't think what you can afford to do is, even when Keon Sabb's back, instead of immediately placing him back in the starting lineup, you can kind of let him gradually get his legs back under him. No pun intended. And because you do have Bray Hubbard, let him get more comfortable playing, and then just see who performs better. When based off opportunities and stuff, you've got 2 really good options. I mean, you can do it at, kind of like running back, where you're playing the hot hand. Get guys in certain weeks. Maybe, they have some similarities, but they're also different players. So if you're going against a certain style of offense where maybe one of their skill sets kind of fits out a little bit better, you're going to have them both involved. I guarantee you. Bray Hubbard's, I mean, and I wouldn't be shocked at all. I mean, Keon Sabb has been the starter for most of the year. He's a transfer portal guy. Whether you want to or not, you make those guys promises. So, with him getting healthy, I think you'll eventually get back to the top of the depth chart. But Bray Hubbard's not going anywhere. He's going to be a part of that rotation for sure.
Here's another question from Brian. Wants to know about spots open in the recruiting class. Do you think it would be smart to strengthen the defensive line? I'll say this. I was surprised to see Merritt decommit. I was surprised to see Cunningham, who I've actually had on my channel a couple times, interviewed him, commit to Ole Miss, but not as much, I guess not as surprised, because I think it just as easy as he went there, they could come back to Alabama. These are guys that picked Alabama over those schools, and then in the same cycle, they're going back over there before the season's even over. So I think there's still some twists and turns that'll take place before signing day. And a lot of it's going to come down to NIL money too. But I think going after defensive linemen is really important. I mean, I think you win championships up front on both sides of the ball.
And one thing I'll say, you can get some really good transfer portal guys along your defensive front. I mean, look at what Ole Miss has done. Look what they did at Georgia last week, who was in the college football playoff hunt. It was preseason number 1, been very competitive. They completely dominated them, not only their offensive front against Georgia's defensive front, but I mean, the one that everybody kind of saw coming in a lot of ways was their defensive front. And it's filled with a bunch of transfer portal guys. The guy from Florida that I can't pronounce his last name, Prince. You got Walter Nolan from Texas A&M, and those guys have been impact players for them. So one good part about it, as far as guys who are actually available on the high school level and, 5-star player, highly rated 4-star, there's still some guys they're going after. We'll see what happens, but I think mostly, a lot of these guys are going to be back next year. Now, granted, you're going to lose. I think Latham can come back for one more season, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be shocked based off of the time that he spent out at Alabama if he decides to move on. LT Overton's a guy who could end up leaving. I think Jordan Renaud is a very important piece for 2025. Very, very important, but you got a bunch of other guys as well.
Right.
But, you're talking about Tim Keenan can be back. Tim Smith won't be able to. But, Damon Payne, James Smith, Edric Hill. So they're going to still be pretty loaded as far as their interior guys. But I wouldn't be shocked at all if maybe, the transfer portal was where they looked, not to add bodies. They really don't just need to be adding anybody. But if you can get those impact guys, maybe like someone like a Walter Nolan, which is kind of, we'll see who's available. But if you can get that caliber of player or somebody that's really impactful, you could end up really having a great defensive line. But it just depends on the needs. I think long term with the high school guys, I just don't think there's a whole lot out there right now. But we'll have to wait and see.
Well, the other thing too is in the transfer portal. I mean, you might not win as many of these high school guys, but the same guys that are bouncing around back and forth, can't make their mind up, trying to rake in as much money as they can. They're going to be doing that to the teams once they sign too. So I mean, if you're a hired gun, at basketball, it seems like that's kind of how it is now. Where every season's year to year. I don't think that it works that way in football as much because it's hard to learn the playbook. It's just a tougher thing to go in and be your best when you're trying to learn systems every year. I mean, it works for some guys, but so if say we don't get Cunningham and he goes to Ole Miss, they'll go out and get somebody that's probably ready to be a wide receiver star day one in the transfer portal. Like Bernard last year. So I'm not that worried about it. And I don't feel like we really have even seen what our coach DeBoer and his staff can do because we didn't have enough time. They didn't get the full transfer portal after, he took the job. So the high school recruiting stuff's really important. You still want to have a great recruiting class. Bama's number 2 after the defections. They flipped a couple guys. They'll continue to do that. But at the end of the day, you just want to get as many good players as you can in the program. And with that transfer portal, all those spots are going to be taken care of. I'm very confident in that.
Well, with the defensive line, and really it's any position, you've got guys who their reason for entering the transfer portal, if they're a quote unquote superstar caliber player, is the bag. They want to get paid. But, there are other guys who are searching for opportunity. Now, a lot of times that's more of your smaller school guys who you can find some really good players who are NFL caliber that are, playing at some of these smaller schools. It's not that they're chasing a bag. You're certainly going to have to pay them as well because they understand their NIL value. But it's also, hey, I want to get to a prominent program that's in the spotlight that's going to get me as much NFL recognition as possible. Alabama is certainly one of those places. And so, you pitch that. And you can end up filling some of these needs. You still got to pay them, like I said, but you don't have to go after the guys. If you want the premium talent, some of that premium talent wants a huge bag. And some people can afford that. The Texas of the world, other places really can't, or they can't afford too many of them. But then there are other premium talents who are looking for a bag, a pretty healthy one, but they're more so looking for opportunity. You go get someone like that, and you can really shore up some of these different positions. So there's a lot of different ways of looking at this. And I do think Alabama, what you need to understand is like a fan looking at it, Kalen DeBoer's offensive system is very desirable to play in. And Kane Womack's defensive system is also very desirable to play in. So that if you're a transfer portal player, you get the brand name, but you also get the system that you really feel like is going to allow you to do some different things and highlight your skill set. And Alabama has the ability to also, be pretty healthy on the NIL front as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, Clint, let's do our players of the game. We'll start on the offensive side of the football. Again, a 52-7 final, Alabama over Mercer, what we expected. Both teams now with 2 losses. Mercer, though, 9-2, and one of the favorites to win the national championship in their league and their side of things. And Bama, 8-2. They improved to 6-0 in Bryant-Denny Stadium with one more big game left against Auburn after next week in Oklahoma. All right, so game ball wise, who are you giving your offensive game ball to?
I'm gonna go different a little bit here. I'm actually gonna go Jeremy Bernard. I thought he did some really good things. The Ron Williams touchdown run did a phenomenal job as far as he took one defender and he literally ran him into a second defender to really clear two guys out, and kind of sprung Ron Williams for that first touchdown. But also, led the team in targets with 6, led the team in catches with 4, led the team in receiving yards with 81. So he averaged over 20 yards a catch. Obviously one of those was a really big 45-yard play, but he's playing good football every week. And he's the perfect, I call him a number 2, even though he's kind of like a 1A, 1B. Like he's getting a healthy amount of targets, but it's more so of like you watch Ron Williams, and while there's some freshman obstacles that he's got to overcome, which kind of limit him in some ways, you're still going to view Ron Williams kind of as the alpha. But Jeremy Bernard, from a production standpoint, from a target standpoint, from a reliability standpoint, he's certainly up there kind of in that conversation as well. Not scoring touchdowns, he really hadn't all year. That's been kind of surprising, but he's been consistent, and he's been a very steady presence for the wide receiver room. Like I really love his leadership, his experience, and what that's doing as far as when he's on the field in 2 receiver sets with Ron Williams. If Ryan's got any questions or whatever, he can turn to Jeremy, and Jeremy's got his back. So I really like that combination. I'm going to go Bernard.
Hey, he had a good game again, man. He's been really consistent. I'm giving my game ball to Tyler Booker. I want to give Tyler Booker the ball anytime I can get him. I mean, I feel like the reason that Alabama's in this position is because he got tired of not seeing the team do the things that the team was capable of doing and stepped up as a leader on the team. He's the best player on the team. He's a first-round pick. He might be the first offensive lineman selected in the draft. When Mike Johnson talks about him, he compares him to the greatest offensive lineman, in his opinion, that Nick Saban had in his era. The leadership's there. The offensive line at times isn't good, but he's always good, consistent, blowing guys away today. It was like watching when you just kind of peek down. It was like watching Billy Madison. Like when Billy Madison was playing basketball with those little kids. He's just like bowling those guys over. So I love him, and it's a good week to give him a game ball.
You want to go defense? Let's just skip special teams. I'll give. I'm not going to.
No. Let's go special teams. We don't want to gyp those guys. I mean, come on, man. We had some kick returns.
Yeah.
We had a field goal.
And the field goal, it was nice to see Graham Nicholson still a part of the team, and that's not his fault. It's just he's not getting too many kicks this year. But obviously the reason I didn't want to do special teams is I didn't want to really address the elephant in the room that James Burnip didn't have his best game. Really didn't have only 2 punts, but that just didn't have his best game. Obviously, I'll give Graham Nicholson the shout out for making his field goal. It was a healthy field goal. I mean, it was 45 yards, and it looked like it could have gone for a few more. So that's been always the big question mark with him, has been leg strength. And obviously wind factors into that. I don't know, which I wasn't paying attention as far as direction of the kick and all that stuff today, but 45 yards, good to see him knock down a kick for Alabama.
Yeah, Burnip, terrible game. 49 yards, 2 kicks. Normally one kick would go like close to 60. His long was 29 and his average was 24.5. Hopefully he's not hurt. He just had a bad game, right? And
the key there to pay attention to is none were down inside the 20. If you got 2 punts and you're averaging that, but it's you got 2 down inside the 20, it's because you were across midfield. You needed a coffin kick and you got it. But 0 inside the 20, so that kind of speaks to it just not being his best performance. Fully expecting to bounce back. I don't have a problem with that at all.
But I'm with you on Nicholson. I mean, Alabama scores a lot of touchdowns when they get in the red zone and they get on the other team's side of the field. But he got a chance today, and he nailed a 45-yarder. It was right down the middle. So hopefully that continues. All right, now let's switch to the defensive side of the football. But we did get a super chat. So before we go there, Gelato wants to know, probably jumped on late, how do you guys think the offense did today? And Clint, I'll let you kind of address that. We appreciate the super chats too, guys. We really appreciate you. We know that it's your hard-earned money, and we appreciate it so much because it helps fuel the channel.
Yeah, and I'll actually switch over. This was his comment as well, because I agree. Seemed like Bama didn't have the push in the running game. I thought they had some really good moments. You down there on the goal line, didn't like how that whole thing played out. You couldn't punch it in. You thought you scored a couple of times, but I will say that it feels like offensively, Jalen Milroe, you're seeing the burst come back for whatever reason. Maybe it's just him running with more confidence, maybe more of a willingness to do it. I don't know, but he looks like a different guy when he's running the football compared to, at parts of this season. I thought he, obviously had a pretty good day as far as the passing. He overthrew Caleb Odom. Something that happened, I commented and said it just seems like that Jalen Milroe is not doing great things as far as the deep ball right now. It's just not there for him. He's barely overshooting guys. It's going to come with time. He's close there. But I also acknowledge the fact that I think Caleb Odom should have brought in that football. And I think I said, you've got to catch that football. And a lot of people are like, for a Sports Center top 10 play, if he would have caught it, like, how can you say he should have caught that football? And it's like, I think the miraculous part of that play was him getting to the football and having the length to position himself. It was not necessarily like it would have been a really great catch, but just putting himself in that position. I thought the excellent part had already been done, but he couldn't bring it in. But it wasn't like it was this fingertip kind of catch. Like he had positioned himself where it was a catchable football. Now he was already up in the air. It was he did have to extend some. But I think that he could have helped bail out Jalen Milroe there. He didn't do it. But does that mean that it's mostly his fault? No, I mean, at the end of the day, the vertical ball just right now that has not been Jalen Milroe's strong suit. Hopefully he gets that back and can do that a little bit more consistently. Obviously the Robbie Oots thing hit him in stride, but the passing game looked fine for the most part, especially given the opponent. But I would really see the explosive downfield plays from these receivers and stuff. I would like to see that element return because his legs are coming back as far as the impact of them. I do feel like Alabama's starting to run the football a little bit better. I think that that's an element that could really provide some balance with this offense.
Great point. Thank you, Gelato, man. Roll Tide to you, buddy. Good to see you back on the channel again. All right, let's flip it over to the defensive side of the football. Clint, you went first on offense, which means I get to go first on defense. And I know who you're going to take, so I'm not even going to take that guy because I'm that good of a friend to you right now. I'm going to take Zabian Brown. I loved the Zabian Brown fumble recovery for a touchdown. This guy's a freshman. We need these guys to step up at the beginning of the season. Do you remember we were like, who's going to play cornerback for us? Who's going to be out there playing cornerback? Damani Jackson forced a fumble today. Zabian Brown made the game-saving catch against Georgia. He's made other plays. This time he scooped the ball up and took it to the house. Although when I watched the replay of the video, it did look like one of the blocks was a holding or at least a tackle. They didn't call, but I'll take it, man. Really, really, my favorite play of the game was watching him return that for a touchdown.
I actually have two that I'm going to go with. And the easy one is Jahad Campbell. He's playing great football. He's on pace to break 100 tackles. Henry To'oTo'o did it in 22. Just going back very quickly and looking, the only off-ball linebacker that we've seen break 100 tackles since 2016 is Henry To'oTo'o. So the fact that and really Deontay Lawson's kind of actually, what did he do today? He only had one, so that kind of probably puts him. He'll probably end up reaching the 100 tackle mark if you include potentially an SEC championship, maybe one or two college football playoff games. But right now, in just the regular season, Jahad Campbell's on pace for that. Has had 4.5 sacks in his last 5 games. That has been absolutely huge. is getting used like Micah Parsons did at Penn State and how you've seen him get used with the Dallas Cowboys, I think he's making a similar impact. Yeah, so I mean, definitely he deserves it, but also Quay Russaw being asked to step into a bigger role. Q Robinson's doing everything he can from a leadership standpoint to help these guys out, be a kind of extra coach, in practice and all that stuff. But you don't have one of your leaders out there seeing snaps anymore as far as senior leaders. And so, more is on Russaw's plate as a redshirt freshman. More is on Yanze Pierre's plate. Two very young players right now. You got two redshirt freshmen, and you've got two true freshmen right now who are not suspended or healthy at that Wolf spot. So the fact that not only is he playing really well, I mean, the two interceptions that he's had, Mick, just incredible catches on both. I mean, let's get Alabama's pretty deep at tight end. They're doing some good things there, but let's get this guy some offensive snaps if he keeps this up, because those hands have been pretty special. I don't want to forget about him and what he did today.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that too. Emily Grace is on site right now, and before we get off here, Clint, she wants to jump on and give us a breakdown from from campus, and I'm all about that. So let me get her on here, and we'll kind of see what she thought about things. But look, I think that these games are part of college football. I hope they don't stop, because I enjoy them. I enjoy getting to see all the young guys. This is like a sneak peek. It's not the NFL. College football is not the NFL. It's not supposed to be the NFL. And so mixing in some of these games, you get an idea of the different levels of football. This is one of the best teams in their league. They're the champions of the Southern Conference. They play Alabama, and they can't really hardly stay on the same field. And they could go on to win the national championship this year. But it's still fun. I mean, for the quarterback's a huge Alabama fan. He got an opportunity to, play against his childhood favorite team. And, and so now you get ready for the stretch run. Uncle Charles, good to see you, man. Great to see you. You're right. That's how Alabama is supposed to play. I thought it was a dominant performance. I think that the last three games have built momentum, but now you got to take care of business against Oklahoma. Now you got to take care of business in the Iron Bowl. I'm interested to see how Kalen DeBoer responds to his first Iron Bowl. I mean, I expect Alabama to take care of business at home, but this is one of those games where you earn every Iron Bowl win that you get.
That's 100% correct. And, right now, I will say not a whole lot's going right for Auburn. So if they're going to latch on to anything that they possibly can, if Alabama lets them beat them, I really think that that's like this momentum changing with the recruiting class and stuff. They'll certainly use that as a rallying cry for 2025. So you got to get that win.
All right, well, let's check in with there you go. Yay, there you are. Now we see you. EG, how you doing there? And I like the look of you are in the end zone right now.
Yes, it was a great game today. I don't know what you guys felt, but the opportunity to get to see so much of the quarterback room was so satisfying in a way, to see kind of what the quarterback room has to offer. But overall, post-game was great. We did not hear from Jalen Milroe. We had Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, Robbie Oots, Quay Russaw, and Jihad Campbell.
What did those guys say? Anything interesting?
Yeah, so for Jihad Campbell, I actually asked him because we're all aware of the message that he gave the team this week in practice. And that was basically, if you're not going to give your all, you don't need to be here. So I followed up with him on that. And he said, at this point in the season, how deep we are, everything has to be about winning. Anything we do has to be about winning. That intensity has to be there. And then I asked Robbie Oots to kind of break down that touchdown snag that he had. He gave me the play-by-play and then said he went back on the sideline. And the reaction from the teammates was incredible. Everyone's screaming his name and things like that. As far as Ryan Williams, everyone loves talking to Ryan. He's great with media. You guys know it. He's only 17. How does he check all these boxes? But he does. And we were talking, and I asked him to describe this receiver room because we saw so much depth in it. Rico Scott, I mean, it's deep. He said it's explosive. He said it really is a true brotherhood, and it's just fun to be a part of. And I think that speaks volumes. If you have a teammate like Ryan Williams, who is clearly so unselfish, good things are going to happen on the field.
Yeah, with going back to Jahad Campbell, just what he's doing right now as far as what he's demanding off the field, what we're hearing about him demanding on top of the play and performance and impact on the field, what you're getting from Tyler Booker, where it's like this was one of the big things that made Julio Jones such an effective leader, is that you're getting the impact performance, you're also getting the right approach from him, and you're getting that demand of everybody else. Jahad Campbell doing that on the defensive side of the football, I really feel like Alabama needed somebody, and it seems like Jahad Campbell stepping up and becoming that leader, and I think that is absolutely huge for Kane Womack and that defense.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that Jahad is going to be that guy. And, I think that what he offers this team is that he's able to back it up on the field. And I also asked him about stacking games, right? The last few games, it has been all Jahad Campbell. And he said that really goes back to preparation, which goes back to practice. And it seems like Coach DeBoer was saying there's an added focus. He said guys aren't flying off the walls. It's not like an emotional focus. It's dialed in, locked in. And I think, it's encouraging if you're an Alabama fan to see results like we saw today.
Great point. I tell you what, these games, I was just saying before you came on it, I like having them. I don't want them every week. I think that the schedule's gotten a lot more competitive. It's gotten a lot more exciting, because you do play so many big games. But at the same time, it's fun to see what Lonergan's going to do. It's fun to see, Rico Scott get on the field and make some plays, and get a sample of all of those other guys who put in the time to be out there, and what you get a glimpse of the future.
For sure. I think it was really encouraging to see what the future of Alabama at the quarterback position could be. And guys, okay, Ty Simpson with that evading the sack, it's so fun to watch. I mean, I have it on tape and I'm recording and I'm seeing it and I almost start to pull my phone out because, he's going to get sacked. No. He does not. I wish it would have resulted in a touchdown, but for it to be the next play isn't bad either.
Yeah, I thought a lot of people, all the quarterbacks played well. I thought they all had moments. But really looking at that room, the coaching staff has a lot of respect for Ty Simpson. They believe in his talent and his abilities. And I think it's pretty telling. Like, obviously, Dylan Lonergan got 6 attempts. Austin Mack got 3 despite very limited snaps. But Ty Simpson getting 10 pass attempts, despite the fact that not only did you have Jalen Milroe starting a majority of the game, over a half, but you also worked in your 3rd and 4th string quarterbacks as well. I thought this was really important for Ty Simpson to kind of get him a little bit of work because, you never know with the way that Jalen Milroe plays and what makes him so effective. You never know what, maybe he's got an injury. Ty Simpson, that's a guy who, from a leadership standpoint, is important. I think more important than people realize. But also, I think that this coaching staff really believes in his talent as well.
Yeah, I agree. It was a fun game to be a part of. Wasn't too bad. The weather, it was hot, then it was cold, then it was even colder. It was a good day, I think, for fans to see remnants of the past, with being able to handle games like this.
I heard that it was actually a pretty good crowd there too.
Yeah.
My wife was in attendance. She said that it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was not bad. I was expecting, honestly, a little bit lower of an attendance, especially since it's it was a 1:00 game. But no, it was pretty packed. Now, granted, towards the end of the game, once it was, pretty much a rout, people started emptying out, but nothing compared to LSU last weekend.
This is to bring your kids to the game for their first game, people give you free tickets and you're like, hey, you know what? I haven't taken this guy yet. I wonder if he can make it through 4 quarters, if you leave, you're not angry.
Listen, the Mercer fans, there were quite a few of them. They had a pretty strong section, and we were talking about it, on the sidelines about the opportunity of teams like that. And you guys know I went to Georgia Southern, right? It's games like this for that level, of athletes and programs that can really help a program out in a lot of ways, right? They get paid to come play. And then if you leave with a win, that's even better. So I have a lot of respect for these teams coming into a place like Bryant-Denny. And they have that memory forever. And it's pretty cool to see the cheerleaders and the dancers and everything else kind of getting their taste of the SEC.
Yeah, you had Neubauer as well, the quarterback from Mercer, who grew up a big Alabama fan. They made a huge deal out of that during the broadcast. Being able to, that touchdown catch that they had, a great throw, even better catch by the receiver. It was to a point where even Alabama fans are like, you know what? Got to give them props, man. That was just a great play.
In the replay, you kind of had people like, dang, like in the stands and stuff. But it was cool to see.
What is as far as now, are you going to Norman? Is that, or
I'm not.
okay? So, but you will, of course, we'll both be at the Iron Bowl. What are your thoughts on, Oklahoma and Auburn as these last two games? You get past the Mercers, Auburn and Oklahoma, not great records, but I still think it's two pretty tough tests.
Yeah, you really never know in the SEC, especially this season. I wouldn't take either of them lightly. I know that Oklahoma has struggled offensively pretty much all season, but again, you're going away from Bryant-Denny. You're going to Norman for the first time. I'm intrigued about that matchup. I do feel confident in Alabama. When it comes to the Iron Bowl, that's really a toss-up if it's at Jordan-Hare. I don't really have much of an opinion on that game until I see, this next week of play. But Auburn looked pretty good today. I will say that. Cam Coleman, he's the real deal.
Well, here we go. 2 more games and the stretch run for Alabama. They got to take care of Oklahoma, and then it's going to be a really interesting Iron Bowl week just because Auburn has a chance in the football game. I think they'll be probably a 10 to 13 point underdog, but they've been in every game. They just haven't won any of them.
Yeah, and what a better time for them than in the Iron Bowl to put it all together.
All right, anything else before we let you go tonight?
No, I'll just kind of give you guys a view of what's behind me.
I love that.
That's a little piece of heaven right there.
It's emptying out. The trash has been picked up. It's just me and the landscape crew.
Is that a drone there next to you?
No, that's the good old stand-up camera.
Oh, okay. That's a camera. Okay. I saw the top of that, and I thought, I wonder if that's like some kind of drone or whatever. We'll have a safe trip back and roll tide. Thanks, EG. All right. Awesome job. I love that, Clint. It's
great stuff.
Yeah, when you can get out on the field to finish the show, I think that's a good thing. All right, what do we have going on covercrimson.com? And now's the time, guys, for you to be part of Cover Crimson. When I get off here, I'm about to go on there and post some myself. Covercrimson.com, get the annual subscription, and with that, you get the Cover Crimson t-shirt. So we really want you to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun couple of weeks because you've got basketball in full swing. Obviously, Alabama lost to Purdue, tough environment. Alabama didn't play its best basketball, but it's not just about wins and losses like it is in football. Like, you want to see these guys battle tested. The Nate Oates formula as far as scheduling these tough games and these early parts of the season, it pays off down the road. They've got a lot more, top 25 matchups coming up. It's going to be a fun time on that front. You've got the college football playoff discussion happening. You've got Oklahoma, a trip to Norman. You've got the Iron Bowl, potentially an SEC championship. So the football team, it's full swing from here. Obviously, no offense to Mercer, a lot of respect for programs like that, but it doesn't give you as much to be excited about. But now it's back to SEC play. Some pretty tough, a lot tougher opponents than people realize. And so that conversation is going to be happening. I'm going to be doing the snap count observations like I always do. We got a lot of new posters who have been joining, and we've been getting their shirt sizes and sending out, shipping out some T-shirts, some Cover Crimson T-shirts like Mick was talking about. So if you're not a part of it, come be a part of the conversation. We love, diving into the discussions. A lot of what we talk about on here, we talk about over there, really dive into it a little bit more. We're always available to answer questions. And then we'll, obviously be continuing to shift focus towards Oklahoma and the rest of this season.
Great stuff there. Check us out tomorrow. We'll have our Sunday show with the two of us and Chris. And don't forget, guys, we appreciate you being here so much. Like and subscribe, thumbs up. Roll Tide, everybody. Final score 52-7. Bama heads to Oklahoma 6:30 next Saturday. We'll be on after the game to do the same thing we're doing right now. So roll Tide, everybody.